I'm Uncle Sam, and I'm watching Jiggy Jag TV.
Okay, Scotty, welcome to the Hutchinson Fox Theater. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on a second.
Hey, that's fine.
Okay. Oh, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Pretty good, actually.
Right.
Now, tonight, the legendary Count Basie Orchestra, directed by you.
Yeah.
80 years of Count Basie.
Yeah, that's right.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, that's right. Holy smokes. That's absolutely right. Yeah, 80 years, 1935, and the orchestra's still going strong, and the musicians are great as they always have been, and the orchestra sounds like the Count Basie Orchestra, which is the main thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, how did you get involved with the Count Basie Orchestra?
Well, I simply got a phone call one day out of the blue from Frank Foster in 1993. He was the director at that time. And he said I had been recommended, highly recommended for the orchestra. I thought it was a joke, And so when I realized it wasn't a joke.
Who is this?
Oh, my God. So that's kind of what happened. But before that, I was the biggest Basie fan. I saw the orchestra when I was a kid in Atlanta twice. And I met the entire orchestra except for Mr. Basie on the second occasion I saw them.
Yeah.
And I just had this feeling one day that I would be here. I just didn't know when, but I always kind of had a feeling. So when I calmed down from Foster's call, I actually wasn't really surprised. It was just kind of part of what I was supposed to be doing. So
that's cool.
Yeah. That's all right.
Now, you're a two-time Grammy winner. Tell me a little bit about
that's
winning some Grammys.
The first one was the Count Basie Orchestra live at Manchester Craftsman's Guild with the New York Voices, who were our guests that night.
Yeah.
That won a Grammy. And then a year later, or 2 years later, we did Count Plays Duke, where we did all Ellington arrangements, Ellington songs, and that won a Grammy. And then I think the one after that was actually nominated, but it didn't win. So this orchestra has won more Grammys than any other orchestra. It's been 18. I've been luckily be on 2 of them, so hopefully we'll win some more.
Now, you've recorded with Tony Bennett, Ray Charles, among others. Tell me a little bit about working with these folks.
Well, Ray Charles was the posthumous kind of a thing. It was a record we did called Ray Sings, Basie Swings, where they lifted his voice from a previous concert decades earlier, and we just redid the arrangements. And then they dropped his voice down into the mix of everything, and it sounds like he was right there, So that's kind of how that worked. But the Tony Bennett thing, that was live in New York when we recorded that. And it was nice working with Tony, and nice to hear the recording with Ray, to hear my solo behind his voice, So it's, that's kind of, technology was the key to that one. Yeah.
Now, Say It Plain. Tell me a little bit about this.
It's my first recording as a leader. I mean, I had always wanted to do a solo project as a leader under the terms that I wanted, with the musicians that I wanted.
Yeah.
And luckily, a guy named Sam Beeler, who owns the Unity Music Foundation and Unity Music, which is the record label. Yeah. They signed me to the label, and he said I can do whatever I wanted, because I sort of mentioned to him that I already had people on standby for years, and like Marcus Roberts, Wynton Marsalis, Ellis Marsalis, all my good friends, and they were just waiting until I got a deal so we could record, So Sam Beeler made that possible.
So you got a deal, and you called him up and said, hey, we're going.
Let's go. We met everybody, met in New York and several places in the studio, and it came out, yeah.
Now, you do the Count Basie thing, you do your own stuff, but you also are an author. Tell me a little bit about the world of jazz trumpet.
Yeah, man, back in 1992 or 91, I was on the road with pianist Marcus Roberts. We were giving a concert one day at Georgia State University, and we were doing a master class. So when it got to me, for trumpet, you have to be able to explain and play all of the whole history of jazz trumpet as much as you can.
Yeah.
So I was talking about Louis Armstrong's, and I play a Louis Armstrong solo that I learned by ear. Then I do the same thing for Dizzy Gillespie, Miles, Clifford Brown, all the way up to Wynton. I was actually playing these solos. Yeah. And in the middle of them, for the men that I knew and had time to spend with, like Freddie Hubbard and Wynton and Nat Adderley and Dizzy, I would put in a little personal stories about things that they would tell me, that they said about something. Yeah. And as I was doing this, the student in the back of the room said, "Oh man, that's great what you're doing, but is it written down anywhere?" And I said, I don't think that is written down anywhere. So I got to thinking, and I said, and it took 4 or 5 months for me to figure out how to do it, but I remember thinking, what I know should be written down, because we don't have anything like that for any instrument, where the complete history of your instrument or the lineage of it is told by somebody who's actually playing that instrument, and that has a connection to the pioneers of it. So I found myself in a very unique position that I was in contact with a lot of these guys, and women too, like Laura Bryan, and I just began to write things down. 10 years later, a book was published. So that's kind of what happened, and I still give lectures on it, and I just wish we had books like that for the other instruments too. Yeah. So for trumpet, you can go find the very first guy who was considered to be the father of jazz trumpet, all the way up to the people today. And we don't have that for any other instrument, for piano, for bass, for drums, for trombone.
Wow.
So I was just, I didn't set out to write a book, it just sort of happened like that.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Now, you're also a professor of College of Music at FSU.
Yeah, at the College of Music, yeah, and I'm professor of jazz trumpet, jazz studies too. So I live in Los Angeles, but I live in Tallahassee part of the year. I teach there part-time.
Yeah.
So I'm able to go in a few weeks at a time and then come on tour like today. And then I'll go back there tomorrow to finish teaching. So I've been doing that for 12 years now, and I love teaching.
Yeah.
And some of my students have gone on to do very well, and some of them are teaching universities themselves, And one of my
That's a
students,
pretty cool accomplishment.
As a matter of fact, the bass player tonight is one of our master students at Florida State. He's not our regular bassist.
Yeah.
We needed a sub to come do this show, so I started working with him months ago, and he's ready. He's playing tonight. And
Does he get college credit?
He'll get. Oh yeah. He'll sure get college credit for that. Because this is no easy job to come in here and do that.
No.
For the first time, but he's doing all right. So.
Now, you're very active on social media.
Yeah.
I noticed that there's a lot of folks. We interviewed Glenn Miller Orchestra, one of their band leaders, several years ago in person. Their audience seems to be getting older and older and older and dying off, but the Count Basie audience is getting younger and younger and younger. I notice on social media you have a lot of interaction with these folks.
Yes.
Why is Count Basie so appealing to the younger audience that some of these orchestras are not appealing to?
There's several things. I think one of the main things I've had to put in, if I had to just pick one off the top of my head, is the thrill of the improvisations. Every time we do a concert, we do the same charts we've been doing, but every solo is different every single night. So this orchestra is still an improvisational-based orchestra. Everybody is a soloist.
That's awesome.
And in some orchestras, I mean, not to say the Glenn Miller Orchestra isn't, they don't do solos, but the way that we do this, the way that we do our concerts, no other orchestra is really doing that. With the excitement of coming down to hear soloists coming down to be featured on something. I mean, it's just, I think that's what it is. And it also makes you want to dance, too. So it's that dance element coupled with you got to hear a solo tonight that you've never heard before. Yeah. It's not going to be something that somebody recorded in 1950 or 60 that was popular and you play the same exact thing. It's never going to be that. It may be something similar to that, but generally speaking, it's going to be a new solo every single night that we play. And when the students see that, they can relate to it, because we're on edge because we don't know what's going to happen until it happens. Yeah. And so I think they pick up on that energy. And the more people hear it, even the older the audiences that hear it, they still get energized from it. I have people tell me that all the time. So I just think it's the way or the nature that we still play that the band has always played in. I mean, you can look at old footage of the band from the 30s, I think it's 1938, somewhere they're outside in the big stadium and everybody's jumping around, versus our latest YouTube thing where you see the members of the audience, that's just how Basie set it up. So I think that's why,
That's cool. Now, you got a new Count Basie recording, 2015, you guys were working on.
Man.
Tell me about this.
Oh, wow. It's the very first Christmas album in the history of this orchestra. Mr. Basie never did a full Christmas album. He did one track of Jingle Bells with the band. 1966, that went on to a compilation record with a bunch of other artists. Yeah. So when I was appointed director 2 years ago, I thought, what can we do? We needed a new recording anyway. Yeah. And I thought, we have to do a Christmas album. That should be it, because it'll be all new material that the band has never recorded before. So we have special guests like Johnny Mathis. We have Ellis Marsalis on the piano. Wow. We have Plas Johnson on tenor saxophone as a guest, who's known for the tenor saxophone solo to the Pink Panther theme that everybody's been hearing for the last 50 years. We have him, a young woman named Letticy, great vocalist, as well as our own Carmen Bradford and the guys in the orchestra. So when you hear this, it's going to knock your socks off, let me tell you.
That's cool.
That's all I've been listening to in my car for the last 3 months is Christmas music. I'm at the red light, da-da-da, I'm like, what the heck is this guy listening to? It's July, man. But that's
Christmas in July.
Oh my goodness! So the street date is November 6th. It's called A Very Swinging Basie Christmas. It's on Concord Records. It'll be released all over the world, and pre-orders are already available on Amazon, from what I understand. So we literally today I got the final proofread of the album artwork and the liner notes. So I got that today. So they're almost ready to go ahead and do the full major media push, so you can actually see the artwork when you do go to Amazon and all that. So we're just days away from that.
That's cool.
So it's we have some Christmas shows coming up in December, and it's just, it's going to be the greatest jazz Christmas album for a big band ever.
That's cool.
Just by the way we took the approach to the songs, So we had a great time doing it, and I think everybody will love it.
Now, the world loves Count Basie. I was looking at your website. Yeah. You guys are going to be going to Japan, Australia, and Thailand.
Yeah.
What the heck kind of reception do you get in these places?
Just like here, it's unbelievable. People love Basie, man. Basie. Yeah. And the main thing about him that's really so appealing, I think, in addition to the music, he was a nice guy. He was always smiling. You could just feel that. When you see him on stage playing, you can, that's a nice guy. He's approachable, Yeah. And that's how we still are. You know, I make sure that we are that way. And I have to remind the guys sometimes that this is still Count Basie's orchestra. This is not my orchestra. This is not yours. This still belongs to him.
Yeah.
So what he did when he was alive, we have to still adhere to that. We have to treat people a certain way. You have to be nice to one another. You have to have a good time. You have to leave the audience wanting more. You got to communicate with them. Be approachable. Somebody wants to come up after the concert and speak to the saxophone section, they can do that. We're not scurrying away and things like that. So we try to communicate to the audience, because once we take the stage, the whole room becomes one big stage.
Yeah.
It's not the band, us up there, then the audience here. It becomes one big, huge stage, and Basie understood that. He always paid attention to his audiences. So when we do go to Japan or Thailand or all these places that we go, the audiences can't wait till we walk on the stage to play. They just can't wait. As a matter of fact, when we were in Italy, I think it was Rome, it was right when Obama became president. Before we walked on stage, we had a standing ovation. I think part of that could have been was right when he was elected, but part of that too was Basie.
Yeah.
Seriously, you could just tell parts of the world that have real serious jazz fans. They're really connoisseurs. They really know what they're getting ready to hear. You know.
Yeah.
So tonight, if I were in the audience, I could wait till the audience till the band gets on stage myself, because I know, man, that's 80 years they're getting ready to deal with.
Yeah.
It's going to be something for everybody. You know. So I think that's part of why it is.
Well, a couple more questions before I let you go. Tell me a little bit about the special guest vocalist this evening.
Oh, Carmen Bradford. Carmen
Yes.
Bradford joined the orchestra actually in 1983. She was the last vocalist that Mr. Basie hired. And she was here for 9 years, and she left to go on and do her solo career. And so whenever we can get her back, we like to have her come back, you know. And so it's been working out pretty well for us. And whenever she can't make it, her mother, Melba Joyce, comes and sings with us. She was with us for 5 or 6 years, her mother. And so Carmen is just the best in the business. And she's on the Christmas album, too.
Yeah.
And but she brings such a spirit and a swing and a reverence for the Ellas and the Sarah Vaughns and the Joe Williams, as you can hear all of that in her.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so we're just glad that she can make it with us.
Well, before I let you go, where do you guys see the Christmas album going?
Man, I think, I hate to predict, but I'm pretty sure it'll go to #1 on the jazz charts. I know that. And because simply, think about Johnny Mathis with the Count Basie Orchestra. He has his own fan base. Basie has one, but the two of them together, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And I mean, and the other thing about that, Johnny also turned 80 this year.
Wow.
Just like the orchestra did. So he was born in 1935.
Wow.
The orchestra
That's
began in
cool.
1935. So to have both of those together like that, that's really special. And but when you hear it, man, everybody, I think they're going to just